Holy shit. Negan has arrived. That's for sure. Hey guys, can remember the season finale of The Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 16, Last Day on Earth, and I don't think this episode really needs an introduction. I mean, I was pumped out of my mind for this episode, obviously. Not just because of Negan, but I knew that stuff was going to get done. This wasn't going to be one of those finales where it was 90 minutes and nothing happened. I knew by the end something big would happen, and oh my god, I mean, I honestly don't know what to say. I haven't felt this kind of shock and this kind of tension from The Walking Dead in a very long time, and I very much am happy that they went the direction they did. I mean, those last 10 minutes, I mean, were just crazy. But the entire episode I thought was great. I thought the entire episode, there was just so much tension. There was so much great buildup. You could tell we were leading to something big, and they definitely did not disappoint. But let's just get into this episode because amazing finale, without a doubt, best episode of the season. Best episode in a while, honestly. We haven't had an episode like this in a very long time, and I definitely want to get into it because it really was crazy, tension-filled, things like that, and let's just get into it. So we start off, and someone whistles as sunlight shines through a bag over someone's head, and that whistle is very important, and I'll talk about why when we get to the ending. Morgan walks through the woods and comes across a sign that says you are all alive and finds a horse. He calmly approaches it, calling it fine, and the man with Carol's rosary continues to follow a trail. He's bleeding out, and a man runs through the woods as whistles surround him, and basically we see Carl and Enid are debating over whether or not Carl should leave, because he feels that he should leave because everyone else, has stayed in Alexandria. It just hasn't worked out for them, and it's really dangerous, but Enid obviously wants him to stay because she thinks that he's safe there, but it's been established that the Alexandria safe zone is just not the safe zone anymore. I mean, everyone knows where they are. The saviors are approaching them. They know that that's where they're all going to be, and they're obviously going to target them. So Carl's in a hurry. He's eager to find Carol. He cites what happened to the others, and he doesn't really want to argue with Enid about this. But I like this conversation here because we haven't had a lot of Carl and Enid. There hasn't been a lot of build up. There's been some stuff here and there, but this really, I think, was showing that, she does care, and this is a genuine thing, and definitely like seeing that. So the man in the woods is surrounded by saviors, and we don't know who this man is, but we just know that he's whistling, and he's surrounded. Rick packs the RV, meets Abraham, Sasha, and Eugene at his door. He and Sasha are now a package deal, which according to Eugene includes him, which is interesting. Kind of a random team that's formed, but now they seem to be this team, basically. Carol then arms herself as Enid criticized Carl's decision to go with Rick. She really doesn't feel it's the best thing to do, and she also feels it's very dangerous, and saying Carl is going to seeking revenge, but really it's a trip about helping Maggie, and those lines of her saying that it's very dangerous and things like that, oh yeah, he's definitely going to think that at the end of this episode, because that's the thing I love about this episode. They're all confident that this is going to go great, that they're going to rescue, that they're going to help Maggie, they'll be able to, get out of this and everything's going to be fine because they've gone at this before and they've had that confidence in them. Plus, they have a team and they think with all these allies, they'll be able to get out of this very easily. But Eugene then convinces Rick that he'll be ready to fight if need be, and even Eugene is willing to fight, we see, and we know Eugene, he hasn't wanted to kill all this time. He hasn't wanted to kill, and he does want to kill, and I definitely love seeing that. And we know from 2 episodes ago that he wanted to kill, and he almost died, but he wanted to kill, and I definitely like seeing that. But I think this was just very well handled, because like I said, they all have this confidence. That's a big thing of why this episode was so great, and what made it so, terrifying towards the end. So in the woods, the man who was running earlier is terrified. His savior questions his fear. The man tells him it's his own fault. They offered rules, but the people didn't listen, and they wanted to fight instead. And he punches him, and Carl and Enid agree that she come with, and Carl sends her to the closet. She goes to get a weapon, but Carl locks her in and leaves, and basically the saviors then beating the man in the woods, and it's just crazy. We don't know why they're doing this, but basically I like that Enid did decide to go with Carl, because obviously, if Carl's gonna go, she's gonna go. But Carl locks her in. He feels that she's just safer there, and it's just, that she's gonna be stubborn about him, that he needs to do this on his own. He can't have her in his way, because God forbid something happened to her, he doesn't want to be responsible for it. So Enid yells to Carl to let her out and questions what happens if he doesn't come back, and I love what Carl tells her. He says, just survive somehow. And it really feels like this is the last time Carl's going to see Ned. I mean, I don't know if this is the last time they're going to see each other, but from the way this looked, it really felt like this was kind of like a closing scene for them. Like, it really didn't feel like Carl's coming back. Like, Carl and Ned, it really seems like Carl's not going to come back. Like, he's not going to see Ned again. And then remember, one of the biggest things of this season is Ned saying just survive somehow. When she left, she said that to him. And I think it shows us we've come full circle this season, that Carl then says just survive somehow to Enid. I love that. I thought that was very well done. Aaron then approaches Rick, tells him that he wants to come too. The only way to stop him is to punch him in the face and tie him up again. And the RV's loaded with guns and people. Father Gabriel assures Rick that there are plans in place to protect Alexandria, and his first priority is an emergency. An emergency is Judith. He's going to make sure that Judith's okay, because obviously she's a baby, and he asks Rick if Rick feels comfortable leaving him in charge of Alexandra's defense, and Rick is. And again, it shows Gabriel's arc, because, you know, this entire season, no one's really been that trusting of him, but Gabriel's really proven himself, and now it's to the point where Rick is okay with him tending Alexandria and being the one to take care of Alexandria, which I definitely like seeing. So Spencer asks Rick if they should try to make a deal if the Saviors show up. Rick says, tell him to wait for him. He's got a deal for them. And Rick gets on the RV and heads out of Alexandria, and basically they're ready to take on the Saviors. They think it should be easy. They think they'll get over this really, you know, everything's gonna be fine. And again, that's the thing that really made this episode so great. So riding on his home, Morgan finds Carol huddled in a corner. She's crying to herself, and Morgan tells her he'll start listening to her real soon. He's happy to see her. He examines her, finds she's bleeding from her abdomen. And as we know, I mean, she had a lot of problems, definitely. Those men, you know, she had to kill a lot, and she didn't want to have to. And she obviously, I mean, it really seemed very dire for her. She was going out alone. She doesn't really want to be there. And the Saviors then drag the man out of the woods, place him in the middle of the street. He tells the man that they're going to make an example of him, and the man claims all of his people are dead, which is interesting. Again, we don't know who this man is, but basically all of his people are dead, apparently. The RV then barrels down an empty street. Aaron sits with Maggie before heading up front and switching with Rick. Rick confronts her. He assures the doctor at the hilltop will make things better. He assures her everything's worked out for them because they've always done things together, and this should be no different because, you know, they've done things together and things should be fine. So in an abandoned building, Morgan patches Carol up. They hear a walker in the distance. Morgan tells Carol she'll need stitches and antibiotics, and he tells her that at dawn they're going to head back, but she doesn't want to go back, which is interesting, the fact she didn't want to go back. I feel like she feels she's just, you know, she doesn't really deserve to be saved. I feel like Carol kind of feels like she deserves to die, and that's kind of like her mentality right now, which is very interesting. So the RV continues its roll down the street as Rick offers Maggie some water. Abram notices Xavier's in the road as he's driving, and he says, "What the bitch?" he says before stopping, which gets Rick's attention, and he asks if they're actually going to do this, because there's literally a whole bunch of Saviors right there, and Rick responds negatively before getting out of the RV. Rick leads everyone in the RV, guns in hand, and already it's crazy, and that's the thing of this episode, is that last year's finale, people complained that, oh, it wasn't crazy enough, and not enough happened, and nothing really happened, but so much happened here. I mean, this really was a lot of build-up, but it really was leading to the very final moments of the episode, which I thought was very well done. So he's got guns in hand, his hands up, they stand off of one another. The man tells Rick that he's someone who's with a whole lot of someones who didn't listen, that, you know, Rick didn't listen, and that's why they're after him. And Rick wants to make a deal, but the man wants all their stuff. He shows them all they have to do is listen, and that they don't make deals. You can tell right away the Saviors are quick to the point, and Rick tells them the deal won't work, but he tells the Saviors that he won't have to kill any of them to get it before correcting himself, saying any more of him. And one Savior spray paints a mark, the injured man they grabbed in the woods. Rick rounds up his group and heads back to the RV. The Saviors seem okay with it, and that's interesting. So Rick stopped and asked if they want to make today their last day on Earth, and the Saviors deny the offer, but tells Rick that what if it's the last day on Earth for him or someone he loves, which is definitely a very important line. It's foreshadowing something, and it's really showing that, hey, you're going to give us what you want, or someone that's very important to you is going to die. And again, Rick's not really thinking much of it. He encourages Rick to be extra nice because you never know when you're going to get killed. Be kind to each other, like you said. It was like his last day on Earth. And Rick gets in the RV, tells the man to do the same. They see him kick the injured man before Abraham backs up the RV up. And again, they're not really thinking much of this advice. They're like, all right, these guys are just being assholes. They're just threatening us. They're thinking we can take them down, because remember, up to this point, they've taken down all the Saviors. They've taken them down. They've shot them. They've just basically done whatever they can to get rid of them. And you can tell that this is just not going to be as easy. So whoever has the bag over their head is still being held hostage. We still don't know who it is, which I like. And the RV is stopped in the distance. Carl spots a walker. He asks Aaron why he didn't stay back and guard Alexandria. He claims to owe Maggie and question Carl's motives, which is a good thing because, remember, Aaron's the one that led them to Alexandria in the first place. So it kind of would make sense that he takes over. And basically, I like what he says. He says that he owes them, and I think that's interesting that he says that he kind of owes them to go on this mission. You know, he's always led to Alexandria. He kind of owes, I think, he, not himself, but he owes Deanna and his father, I can't remember his name right now, Reg. He owes Deanna and Reg to go on this mission with them. That's really what it's about. So Eugene looks for a route on the map with Sasha. She plays devil's advocate and helps Eugene find an alternate, safer but longer route. And Rick approaches and asks if they have a route. They do. He tells Abraham, let's go. The RV starts down the road. And Carol and Morgan are still held up in the building. She's on her feet now. Morgan tells her that he wasn't the one looking for her. She asks Morgan if he thinks she's being dramatic and if he truly believes he can just convince her to come back. Morgan tells her that she's needed there, but she insists that he doesn't get it. And she explains, saying, if you care about people, you'll protect and kill for them. He counters by saying that everything in this life is worth a damn. He tells her that on her own she'll die, but she's ready for it. And he isn't about to let her do that, though. He's not just going to let her die, because to him, it seems like she's just willing to die. And yeah, that's kind of what I saw as well, that it seemed like Carol didn't care. She just died. And obviously, Morgan does not want that. And he tells her that on her own she'll die, but she's ready for it. He isn't about to let her do that, though, when he won't leave, and Carol draws a gun on him, tells him to go again, but when he doesn't budge, she lowers it and pleads with him, and she's basically saying, leave me be, I want to die, I don't care what happens, I just want to die. He offers her no response to the request. She insists if he cares about anyone, there's a price, and he'll pay it before walking off. Morgan hears someone or something, and I'm sure a lot of people are disappointed that Carol didn't admit to Morgan what was going on, but I feel like at this point, she's just so broken and feels so just hopeless and empty that it wouldn't really do any different if she would just tell him, oh, there was an attack and that's why I'm acting this way. I mean, Carol is just, she's been violated. She's felt violated. She's felt like she's weakened, and she just felt like she can't really do anything anymore, and she really can't fight anyone because they're just too hard to take down. And it's really got this emotional impact on her, which is really a side to Carol I don't think we've seen before. I mean, sure, we saw in the beginning, but it really seemed like Carol was one of the ones that was willing to kill, and now all of a sudden it seems like she's not willing to kill, which is definitely very interesting. And I don't really know, and I don't like seeing the side of Carol, but I think it's interesting the way they're doing this, and I definitely think that's definitely very interesting. So Aaron continues to drive with Sasha as his co-pilot. He asks her if they can do what Glenn and Maggie have, referring to make a baby, and he calls it living. And before answering two questions if he could do that, he says he can now, and basically they drive around another corner and find more saviors blocking another road. And I think that line when she says, could you do that, is more about his commitment. It's not about if he can have children. It's more about, can you actually commit to children? Like, you didn't commit to Rosita. Can you commit to me? And I think he's realizing that, yeah, he does love Sasha. That's who he wants to be with. And I like seeing that. I honestly really do like them. But again, made me worried because, you know, when someone falls in love in the show, they die. So they drive around another corner, find more saviors blocking another road. Rick evaluates them from the RV. He knows they're outnumbered and rules out Carl's claim that they'll end the conflict right then and there. And Abraham slowly starts to back up. As he does, one of the saviors pops out some gunshots and bursts, and the RV turns around, heads out, and Morgan walks around the outside of the building he and Carol are camping out in. He's searching for the walker or making all the noise and finds a dead man hanging. Other walkers approach from a fence. Morgan puts his things down, climbs a tower to put down the hanging walker, who looks freshly turned, which throughout the entire episode we see these hanging walkers. Very interesting. But it's probably the man the saviors referred to earlier while being the man in the woods when they referred to a man that they strung up. And it's probably that man, which, just knowing the saviors did this to a walker, I mean, you know, we thought the only way to kill Walker was shooting in the head, yeah. But doing this to a walker really shows the saviors are much more of a threat than the walkers. It's really crazy to think about, but definitely the saviors are more of a threat. They act like walkers, and the way they mistreat walkers, I mean, yeah, walkers are obviously a big threat, but to them, they don't seem like a threat. Like, it seems like they take them out easily, and they're not a threat to them, which is just crazy, definitely. But it really shows, I think, how, you know, kind of like easy it is for these saviors to take down walkers, and how much more menacing they are than the walkers at this point. Because, to the rest of the group, the walkers really aren't as big as a deal because they faced them before. The saviors, they really have, because they, like I said, are human, and they don't walk slowly. They do things fast, they do things efficiently, and they're not dead, obviously. And that's why I think they're so much more powerful. So Moore goes back inside, calls for Carol. She's gone. He heads outside, gets on his horse, and rides after her. I was under the assumption that she committed suicide. That's what I was thinking, that she was going to commit suicide and that she was just going to kill herself, because the way this was going, I was really thinking Carol wants to die. She's going to kill herself because she had the gun and everything. I really didn't know what happened here. So the RV rides down another street. It's empty for now. Abraham and Rick sit up front, evaluating how they're going to get to the hilltop. They're overly confident that they'll make it. And again, they're thinking that they're going to make it here. And Abraham sees something in the street and stops. Rick says they can't go through it. He heads out of the truck first, followed by the rest of the group, each with their guns drawn. There's a chain of line of walkers, and Eugene says that this kind of thing takes a lot of people. The chains are running through the walkers. Aaron and Carl point out the walkers are wearing Michonne's clothes and have Daryl's arrows in their chests, and one even has Michonne's hair stuck to its head. Gunshots ring out as Rick's about to take out a walker. His axe is shot out of his hand, but he picks it up and cuts the walkers free, puts them down. And again, the way that he let these walkers free, he sees that they're imprisoned by the saviors. He does feel bad for them, which is interesting. So he obviously has to take them down, take him out, but he obviously had to get them out of there first. So saviors approach from the tree line, continue shooting. The group rushes back to the RV, continue down the clear road, and you see, the way the scene was done with him trying to save these walkers and the saviors are just shooting at them is crazy. And again, I don't think we've seen this kind of finale since season 4, Too Far Gone. That's what this reminded me of. It reminded me of that episode. Remember when they were in the prison and the prison just got destroyed by the governor? That's what this reminded me of. And if anything, this is much worse because the governor had men too, but the saviors, they multiply. There are so many more of them, and they're just so much harder to take down. And I think this is kind of the scene that confirms that they're not going to be able to get out of this as easily as they think. Because the RV continues, but it's making a bad sound. Rick rolls the saviors were shooting at their feet, and they want them to go this way. And why Rick would make this assumption, I don't really know. I guess he's thinking that, again, the Savior's going to be easy to take down, but Aaron tells Rick that Maggie's burning up. Rick looks at the holes in the wall when he shot down the wolves earlier this season, and I thought that was interesting, kind of like the way we made that connection, and Abram calls for Rick that they come up upon the largest group of Saviors so far, which is crazy. Rick tells Abraham to go back, but they're paused for a moment. Morgan continues his hunt for Carol. He finds a rosary in the street, tells his horse to hurry up. He doesn't know where she is. He just knows that she's in very bad danger. Carol walks through a field by some beaten down buildings, still grimacing from her wounds. A walker bangs the inside of a shipping container. She locks in him, but is ambushed by another walker. And after struggling, ripping part of his face off, Carol manages to put the walker down. She's instantly jumped by the Savior in pursuit. He knocks the gun out of her hand and draws his own, and he rises up and aims for Carol's head, telling her each breath is getting harder, so he's going to make each one count. And I was thinking, all right, Carol has led herself to this man because she wants him to kill her. And he tells her he's going to watch her die slowly like his friends did, and he will. He shoots in the arm and calls it a good start, and you can just see, she is in pain. There is no fighting this man. There's no fighting this man. There's no trying to take him down. She just knows that, she basically is just going to have to suffer, and there's no way to get out of this. So the hostage is still being held by the Saviors. Maggie's burning up as Rick tells her they're getting close. Maggie questions the gunshot, but Rick dismisses them. He promises that she and the baby will be okay, and he promises there will be more, and she tells him that she believes in him. And again, I was under the assumption that Maggie was going into labor here, and that's what's happening to her. But we didn't actually see her have the baby. So, I don't think she went into labor, but definitely there was something going on with her involving the baby. And someone had this theory that maybe the baby is like half walker, half human. I don't know why that would happen. I don't think that ever happened. I don't really think that would make any sense either. And it's not that kind of show. This is not Twilight. This is not the Vampire Diaries. It's just not that kind of show. So Carol grimaces in pain, and on the grounds, the Walker Saviors watches over her. He questions why she's smiling. She says there's nothing wrong with her. She's gonna die, so there's nothing wrong with her anymore. She wants to die, as we know. She just wants to die. He shoots her in the leg asks if she thinks she's suffered enough, and she says she probably hasn't. He starts to walk away. Carol tells him that unless she kills him now, she's probably not going to die, and she provokes his return, but Morgan tells him the man has to stop, drops his gun. He's aiming a gun at him. He offers the man a way out, pleads him to drop the gun. He doesn't, and Morgan lights him up, which was crazy the way he did that. But Morgan actually killed, we see, which I thought was crazy. But I think Morgan did this to finally get through to Carol, just showing that she can't do this. He tells Carol it's not her time. Carol's pleading for him to let her die. 2 men in combat, you're approached, question what happened. Morgan tells him that his friend needs help. One man, a redhead, extends his hand and offers help, and the fact that they actually helped him, I thought was interesting, but you could really see that Morgan really does want to help her, and I really like that, because as we know, Morgan and Carol were fighting before, but I like that now he genuinely is trying to help her, and I think he's kind of going to be the one to maybe get her back to her old self again, which I don't really know if she's ever going to be back to her old self, but I think that definitely Morgan's going to try. Will he be successful? I don't know, but I think he's at least going to try. So Rick and the group find another blocked off road, and as they stand there dumbfounded, the man captured earlier is hung from the bridge behind them, and Aaron wants to shoot the chain, but Rick tells him not to, saying that they'll need the bullets. They watch the life leave the man's body. It's setting in that they might be in big trouble, and that this definitely is a problem, and I like that this was like this was kind of like a dialogue-free thing, because they don't need to say, oh, we're in danger. You can just see in their eyes, and especially Rick, that he's just feeling more and more scared. You can see throughout this episode, the more the episode goes on, he starts off really confident, and the more this is going on, he's starting to think, I don't know if we're gonna get out of this, and you really do see that fear in him, and I thought that was definitely very well done. And Aaron basically they watch the life leave the man's body. It's and basically the logs blocking the road start on fire. A man yells out from somewhere unseen, questioning if Rick is treating his people good because it may be their last day on Earth. They rush back to their RVs. The fire gets bigger. The man continues to hang, backing up and away from the situation. And elsewhere, Abraham, Rick, Eugene, Aaron, and Sasha go over what they're gonna do for Maggie because obviously Maggie's in danger. They need to find a way to save her. Eugene plans to head off on his own as everyone else continues on foot, and it's night now. Eugene gives Rick the plan for how to make bullets in case he dies, and Rick tells Eugene they're lucky he's here and that they need him. And basically, Abraham says his brotherly goodbye. Eugene asks why he was never allowed to drive the truck, and Abraham admits he didn't think he could do it, but he was wrong calling Eugene a survivor. And Eugene's really proved himself. I mean, in last season we really thought Eugene was this pussy, that he basically was this coward that lied about who he was and actually was only there so he could join the group, which in reality, I mean, yeah, that is why he joined the group. He joined the group to survive, but which is a I think a viable strategy and a good way to make sure that you're safe. But he has proven himself that he does want to be loyal. He does care about the group, and he's not just in this to survive. He does, in fact, want to save them. And they hug before parting ways. Rick and the others carry Maggie on a stretcher away from the RVs. Eugene prepares to be a decoy, and it's a devastating scene. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen here. You don't know if Eugene's going to get killed, and also knowing what's coming. I mean, it was very hard to watch what was going to happen here. So later, a zombie from a tree branch protruding from its stomach walks through the woods. If it is put down as the group continues, carrying a feverish Maggie. Carl tells his dad that he's right about what he said to Maggie earlier, saying they can't do anything, and he won't let anyone die like Denise again, and that they'll get out of this. And Rick is about to address him as whistles ring out from the woods. Rick orders everyone to run, and they do. Lights illuminate them in the woods. They're totally surrounded by saviors and their RV with Eugene. Rick is puzzled, and everyone just freezes. They don't really know what's going on, but the whistles ring out chaotically. It's menacing. They're outnumbered by more than 10-1, and the saviors calmly just stare at them. And that's the thing. The saviors aren't giving them grimacing looks. They're just staring at them calmly. And Rick is completely puzzled. He has no idea what's going on, and he sees Eugene on his knees with the savior from earlier approaches. He congratulates him on making it where they're going and takes everyone's weapons. Rick wants to talk about the saviors. They're just getting straight to the point. They don't want to talk here. He gets in Carl's face, takes his gun before flicking his hat. He tells him to put Maggie down, get on their knees. Rick is rolling to get on his knees, but does, which causes everyone to follow suit. And I love the look on Rick's face here, because he's shaking at this point. He's shaking. He doesn't know what to do, and he's realizing, shit, we're not safe. I can't get out of this. We're not going to be able to get out of this. I can't do what I can usually do. They're just too powerful, and there's too many of them. Which, yeah, there are more saviors than there are Alexandrians. We definitely have come to know that, and we definitely see that here, which is crazy, but yeah, it is really coming to that point where most of the humans alive are saviors, and there aren't as many Alexandrians, which is crazy. So he's shaking, visibly shaken, and also, mentally shaken as well, definitely. And then the way the scene was done, I was just stunned. I mean, the last like 10 minutes of this episode, I was on the edge of my seat. My jaw was open. I had no idea what was going to happen. The Saviors call for Dwight. He brings out an injured Daryl, Michonne, Rosita, and Glenn. And of course, we knew that they were still out there. We knew that Daryl probably hadn't died, but I didn't know if Daryl had died because of the fact that we know Dwight shoot him. But Dwight did say you're going to be fine, so they're okay. He adds them up to the lineup. Glenn sees Maggie is deeply saddened because one, he didn't know that his wife cut her hair, and two, he also didn't know what was going on with her and that she's there with them. They apparently, and remember, Maggie's always been the one to sit things out because she's pregnant, and obviously he's really concerned about her and the baby, but he doesn't have time to really dwell on that because they apparently leave Savior, knocks on the RV door, and calls Negan out. He emerges with a baseball in hand, smiling and mocking everyone. And let me just say, I was prepared. I was prepared to be disappointed. I was prepared to be let down. The second we saw Negan, I was like, this is some of the most perfect casting The Walking Dead has ever done. Because, yeah, they've gone some wrong. They've definitely gone some wrong in the past. But without a doubt, the best villain since the Governor. And honestly, I think it's going to be a better villain since the Governor. Because Negan is scary. He is scary. He's terrifying. Everything about Jeffrey Dean Morgan in this episode, I mean, I can already tell this is going to be some of the creepiest stuff on TV. The Walking Dead never really scares me. I'll say that. I mean, it's a tension-filled show. Definitely, it's hard to watch at times, but it never has outright scared me. tonight's episode, the last 10 minutes, this scared the hell out of me. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was on the edge of my seat, and you see right away that Negan is a guy you definitely don't want to mess with, the way he's carrying the bat, the way he's so casual about everything as well. I mean, Negan's a guy that's so casual about everything. He thinks of something like death, and he makes it seem like it's this game, and it's crazy to think about. But Negan asks which one's the leader, is pointing to Rick. He reflects on Rick killing several of his men and tells him he'll regret his actions very soon. And I mean, I understand Negan's rage. I do. He killed all his people, and obviously, Negan's really pissed about that. And we knew once Daryl killed those guys in like the first half of this, first half of the second in this arc of the season, that Negan was going to come, and that's how it was going to happen. We knew that was definitely going to happen there, and he's going to let Rick in on how the New World Order works, and the rules are and he basically says, give me your shit, or I will kill you, and there isn't another choice. And he assures Rick that he's going to swallow the bitter pill. That is, regardless, he insists that Rick is going to give him as many resources as he wants, no matter the circumstances. Negan and the Saviors own everything of Rick's now, and he turns his speech to the fact that they have to be punished even though he wants them to work for him now, and they can't do that if they're dead. He's going to make sure that they're working constantly, and the way that Negan's describing this, I mean, it sounds like a concentration camp almost, the way he's saying this. I mean, it's terrifying. He says he's going to kill someone, and he introduces everyone to his bat, Lucille, and I love the way he's like, Lucille's awesome. Like, the way he's just like, Lucille is awesome. And you can see that he loves killing. This is something that he wants to do. He doesn't want to kill them, but when he does it, he loves it. And he's going to pick someone to kill. Shares a look with Abraham before heading over to Carl, addressing the fact that Carl has one of his guns. He heads over to Maggie, talking about how shitty she looks, and Glenn jumps to her aid, but is taken down by Dwight. Negan orders Dwight to get him back in line. Negan laughs, and Glenn pleads with him not to hurt her. Now, in the comics, Glenn is the one that dies, so I was preparing for Glenn to die here, but I also thought, no, the show is not just going to do that. That's what we expect. They're not just going to kill off Glenn. It's too much what we expect. They're going to do something else. So the first one is free. It's an emotional moment, and he gets it. Negan looks to Rick, says, it sucks, don't it? The moment you realize you don't know shit. The line he says here, the moment you don't know shit, is a very pivotal line for Rick, because Rick's always been the man with the plan, the man that knows what's going on, the way that everyone can survive. And for the first time, it really feels like Rick is outnumbered. Like, Rick is no longer the leader. Negan is the leader of everything and everyone, and he's been controlling everything, and Rick has had no idea. So now he points the bat at Carl and asks if he's Rick's kid. Rick asks him to stop this, and I love Rick's protection of Carl. I love that he freaked out when, Negan went to Carl, but Negan comes back with, do not make me kill the future serial killer to make it easy on me. And the way he said that, I mean, very interesting line, the way he said, don't let me kill the future serial killer. We don't know if he was alluding to Rick or to Carl, but he continues his rant, he can't decide, so he comes up with an idea, and he literally starts doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and just randomly selects a victim, and we don't know who it is, but he threatens to do a whole lot worse should anyone fight it or move. He unleashes this huge swing on the victim's head as everyone screams. We don't know who he killed, and that's how the season ends. So, let me say this. I don't really care that we don't know who Negan killed. I mean, obviously, it's going to be really sad. It's going to be an amazing wait, but just the fact that we got Negan in these 10 minutes. I was worried. I mean, I knew that we were going to get Negan in the last 10 minutes. I heard that's what was going to happen. I was prepared for it, but I was really prepared to be let down because, oh, it was only 10 minutes. I was worried to be on here just thinking, oh, this was going to be really disappointing, and I was really upset, and I was going to be really upset about it, but that didn't happen, and what we saw with Negan is everything we need to see. We know who he is, we know why he's upset, we know what his objective is, and we know why he's going to end up killing all of them. I mean, it was terrifying to watch, definitely, but I really think Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he really sold it here. You saw his rage, and I couldn't have been more happier. Honestly, I couldn't have been more happier, but also more terrified because someone is now dead. Who's dead, we don't know. It's going to be crazy to see what happens. This is only going to be the first death because Negan is going to cause a lot of shit, and you know that we are in for crazy, crazy season 7. I don't know what's going to happen. He has this roll down perfectly. Has this role to a T, and I am so happy they casted him. I think he was perfectly casted here. But let's talk about Carol as well, because Carol, we know, is now willing to die. Is Morgan gonna be able to save her? I don't really know. At this point, I don't know if Carol's gonna be back to her future self, because the Saviors just scared her so much. She's never felt this kind of fear before. I don't really know if Carol's gonna be able to get back to that. And Maggie as well, what's gonna happen to her? Obviously, we have to be worried for the baby, and especially Maggie's fear. I mean, Glenn's really concerned about her, and we'll have to see what happens there. But you also see that a lot of these characters are very helpless now because Negan's basically going to control them, especially Rick. And this is something I love, is can Rick really take down Negan? I mean, that's something that, obviously, Rick's not going to die. We know that. He's the main character. They killed off Rick. That's just not going to happen. I mean, then there'd be no show. You can't have The Walking Dead without Rick. He's just the main character. You have to have him. If they did, that'd be really ballsy, but they're not going to do that. It's not that kind of show. you need Rick, but how is Rick really going to take him down? Because Rick has always been the one to be, the man in charge, the man that knows what he's doing all season long, Ricktatorship. And that kind of ends now. The Ricktatorship is kind of over because now Negan is so much more powerful and he has so much more power and there's so much more that Rick didn't know about. And his line especially saying, how does it feel when you realize you don't know anything? Yeah, it's true. Rick didn't really know what was going on. He didn't realize the magnitude and how powerful the Saviors really are. He felt that they were just another, wolf. He thought that they were a wolf or just anyone else he's encountered. Even the governor. I mean, the governor definitely was hard to take down because, the governor killed Herschel, things like that. The governor never had it bad. The governor was never this casual about things. The governor had a lot of things going on in his life, and you kind of understood the governor. Negan, there is no hope for Negan. Negan is going to kill them. Negan is going to do whatever he can to make sure he gets what he wants, and he's going to work them to death. He's either going to work them to death or he's going to kill them. It's going to be crazy to see what happens there. I think, like I said, we are in for a crazy season 7. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's talk about Enid, because is Carl ever going to see Enid again, knowing they're going to end up working for Negan? I mean, I don't know if he's going to see Enid again, we'll have to see, but like I said, the Savior's going to be very hard to take out. I don't really know if they're going to be able to take them out. Eugene wanted to leave, so I'm kind of under the assumption that Eugene was the one that was killed, but remember, Negan randomly picked someone for no reason. He just randomly picked by doing Eeny, Meeny, Mo, so there's not really an assumption of who he killed, and I can't really give you an idea of who he killed because I have no idea who he killed. And I kind of like that. I like that we don't know who Negan killed. One, it makes things more interesting. Two, it shows that he doesn't give a shit who he killed, just that he killed someone, that someone had to die, and he doesn't care who it is. And that's why I think they kept it, anonymous, because for Negan, that's how it feels. It is anonymous, and that scene was in Negan's perspective. We saw everything that Negan saw. We saw that Negan didn't care that the person was, losing vision, and he just kept beating him and beating him and beating him until they were dead, and it's crazy to see. I don't know what's going to happen. Next season is going to be brutal. It's going to be terrifying, and I'm ready for it. I can't wait for next season, definitely, because finally we're getting somewhere. There's no more of, oh, we're just going to make deals, which I thought was fine. This season, they did a very good job with setting all that stuff up, but now we're really going to get to that point where things are just crazy and there's no way of getting out of this, and it's going to be crazy to see what happens there. But overall, guys, this season I thought was really great. The first half, you guys know, I was not a fan of it at all. I was ready to quit the show. But the second half really built up my confidence in the show, and especially this finale really showed me what the show's still capable of. They still can surprise us. They still can give us genuine suspense, and I can't wait to see what happens next season. It's going to be crazy. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. I am so ready for next season. It's going to be amazing. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for either one and two things, either Vinyl or for Shameless. And what I'm going to do, I know I'm 3 episodes behind. I'm probably going to do what I did with Empire, where I'll just go through all 3 episodes in one video and basically talk about the first 2 episodes, maybe talk about the finale, things like that. And I will see you guys for that. Let me know if you guys saw this finale, this season in general. And I don't think I will say this was definitely not the strongest season of The Walking Dead. If I had to pick up the best season, I think it still would be Season 5. Season 5 was just a very strong season from what I saw, at least. I know a lot of people say Season 3 is the best season, but Season 5 for me, of what I've seen, it's the best season. But I think next season is going to be definitely, it has the potential to be the best season. I mean, just the way this was done, the fear that I had throughout the entire episode. I mean, I knew some bad was going to happen, but I was not prepared for Negan. I was not prepared for how creepy Jeffrey Dean Morgan was going to be. And I'm also glad how hidden they kept this, because they could have easily leaked something out, and they didn't. And I'm very happy they kept it hidden with what he did, at least, because we knew that he was going to be there for the last 10 minutes, obviously because of speculation. But we didn't see any photos. We didn't see any footage. We just saw Negan for the first time. I thought, and I can't believe them saying we just saw Negan. I mean, it's going to be crazy to see where we go from here. Let me know if you guys saw this episode and the season in general. We'll see you guys in the next video, which will be either for Vinyl or Shameless, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.